Sleep is the film adaptation to the Stephen King novel of the same name and also serves as a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's film adaptation of The Shining. Safe to say The Shining is probably regarded as the greatest horror movie ever made by many different people. I saw that movie when I was 10 and, well, let's just say it messed me up. I could honestly say that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I don't like watching horror movies. I have no idea how my parents let me watch that movie when I was 10 years old. I was fucking 10 years old. Movie scarred me. Going into 2019, I know Dr. Sleep was one of the more anticipated movies of the year for a lot of people. I honestly did not understand the hype around it for a very long time, simply because I'm not really a big Stephen King fan. I've never read a single one of his books, so I had no idea what Dr. Sleep was until I finally saw the trailer for it. Once I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, so this is why everyone's losing their shit. Alright, that makes sense. Going into Dr. Sleep, though, I knew Mike Flanagan, the director of this movie, had a pretty tough task ahead for him, because what a lot of people don't remember is the film adaptation of The Shining is very different from the book The Shining. That's why Stephen King doesn't really like the film adaptation of The Shining, because it was so different from his book. So, Mike Flanagan now has the really tough task of, okay, I have to make a film adaptation of the book Dr. Sleep, but I also have to make a sequel to the film The Shining. So that's really tough. It's like, you gotta find that balance. I'm gonna say this right now though, Mike Flanagan, he does that here, I wanna say with flying colors. I thought he nailed this movie. I loved this. This movie's awesome. It's great. Let's start off with the casting in this movie. Ewan McGregor as an adult Danny, Dan Torrance, he's awesome. This is probably the best I've seen of Ewan McGregor, possibly ever. I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of movies with him, but this is definitely the best I've ever seen him. What the movie does very well is it really shows the damage that he has really taken upon himself from what he suffered from the hotel in The Shining and everything that went down in The Shining, which makes perfect sense. I mean, if I was a kid and I went through what he went through, I'd be just a little bit fucked up too. I mean, wouldn't everybody? You know, he's become an alcoholic, he's struggling to find work, he just wants to get away from any memory that he had when he was a kid. At one point, we do see a flashback when he was a kid, he would still have hauntings of the woman in the bathroom from that room in the hotel room, and eventually he finally would speak to that butler from the hotel room that had The Shining like he did. The guy told him how he could contain these ghosts. Once he did that, once he was able to suppress these haunting memories of himself, he was kind of able to press on, but since then, he has never shined. Along the way, Dan moves up to New Hampshire, he meets a guy named Billy who rents him a room, finds him a job, also brings him into AA, which helps Dan become sober, and now you're thinking, okay, he's starting to turn his life around, things are looking up for Dan. Only at one point when he returns to his room, he notices on the chalkboard that's in his room, the scene you saw in the trailer, he sees the word hello written on the chalkboard. Soon enough at this point, he begins to regain his shining ability. He begins speaking telepathically with the person that's behind this chalkboard. We soon realize that the person behind this chalkboard that's using this chalkboard to communicate with Dan is this little girl named Abra. Abra's a lot like how Danny was when she was a kid. She had this ability, she could, speak telepathically, but her powers, they're very, very different. Well, different's not really the right word, I should say. They're very enhanced. That's the word I'm looking for. She's just got an ability that she can move things with her mind. She can't just hear other people's thoughts. She can't just speak with people telepathically. She can use telekinesis to move things. She can get inside other people's heads. She's got some stuff in her. Soon enough, that's what brings us to the villains of this movie, the monsters, I should say, which is this gypsy cult, I want to call them, that's led by Rebecca Ferguson, who plays a character named Rose the Hat. And sticking with the acting, I gotta say this right now. Rebecca Ferguson, she was unbelievable in this movie. Again, just like Ewan McGregor, haven't seen a lot of movies with her, but this might be the best performance she's ever given. She's awesome in this movie. What she is, and what this group is, they're basically this cult that feeds off people who shine. They will find people with some form of the shining and they will eat it from them. By doing that, that drains their life force, that kills them. So basically, they hunt people down and they eat them. But what I like seeing that they did with this cult is you show why they're doing this. They're not just doing this for the sake of doing this. They're not just monsters for the sake of being monsters. They eat people's shine because it retains their youth. It allows them to live for very long periods of time. In the opening scene, which I believe takes place in either 1960 or 1980, I can't remember that exactly, but they find this little girl who had the ability to shine, and where I really see Rebecca Ferguson's performance stand out right away is how she is with this little girl, and how she is with really all the victims that come across. You know, she comes off very sweet, very nice, very approachable. She's like, hi there, and like, you know, she's showing this little girl magic tricks, but slowly but surely all the other members of the cult start creeping in. Soon enough, she grabs her, they all swarm her, and they ate her life force. But what I also love seeing in Rebecca Ferguson is her ability to bring people into the cult. What I like seeing with her is along the way they will find other people with a stronger shining ability, and that's one thing that they touch on later on in the movie. Some people shine, but they don't know they shine. It could be people with the ability to, I don't know, sense people's energy, like if they're positive or negative, or someone who can ace a test that they didn't even study for. But some people have it more so. Some people know that they shine. We witnessed that at one point. There's later on in the movie, they encounter this young girl who's kind of used her sort of shining gift to like lure these predators into going on dates with her, and you know, she lulls them to sleep, you know, kind of seduces them with her mind. Then she like leaves like rattlesnake marks on their face, well, like, you know, cuts on their face to like, you know, be like, oh, this is what you get for messing with little girls and blah blah blah. And Rebecca Ferguson's like, no, instead of killing this girl, let's see if she can help us. And you know, they give her a taste of the shining. They pull out the young girl's shine that they killed from earlier in the movie. They give her some of that. She begins to feel that power, that, you know, immortality. Well, not really immortality, but, you know, that youth in her. And then comes a scene in this movie that just, holy fuck. This was a scene that, like, really freaked me out. This is a scene that just disturbs you. They find this young boy who plays baseball, and people in the audience are talking about, oh, wow, this kid is so good at the bat. It's like he can read the pitcher's mind. He knows exactly where the ball's going to be. He always gets on base, and the cult begins to think, oh. And one day, the kid is just walking home from the game, and, you know, the girl that they just recruited, she's able to, you know, lure him into their van. The cult then brings the boy to this, like, abandoned construction site, and the poor kid, you know, he's screaming, he's terrified, he's crying, he's begging to be let go, and, you know, at one point, they have him, like, tied down. Like, he, like, looks up at Rebecca Ferguson, and he's just all like, are you gonna hurt me? And what's really creepy is Rebecca Ferguson just looks at him like, yes, we have to kill you. We're gonna torture you to death because it'll make you taste better. And then from there, they basically just keep cutting at the boy, which is making him scream, making him cry. They're just like, they keep feeding on his shine through that. And, you know, eventually they do it until he's dead. And what's really scary is where I really want to give the little girl who played Abra credit. You see in her shine, she can feel the pain of other people who have the shine. And it's in that moment Rebecca Ferguson starts sensing her, and she begins to see, oh, there's something else out there with even greater power. But before I get too sidetracked, I want to stick by that scene where they killed that young boy. It's just, I appreciate Mike Flanagan for taking that route, because I feel like a lot of horror directors, they're even like, no, we can't do anything like that, because that'll definitely unsettle some people. In fact, when I was watching the movie with my girlfriend and that scene was going on, right after I left, we saw a group of people just kind of leave the theater, so I don't know if maybe that scene was maybe like too much for them. They were just like, alright, we're gonna dip out because that's fucking insane. But I don't know, I feel like a lot of directors don't have the balls to do that. I feel like that's part of the reason why it was as great a movie as it was, because, you know, it took some routes. It took some very graphic, violent routes that a lot of movies don't take, and I think people respect it for it. I think people are going to do the same with Dr. Sleep. Anyways, it's at this point, Abra has done some more communication with Dan, who's been now opening up his shine a little bit more, because he's been working mostly as a janitor at this, you know, old people home. I think that's what it is anyway. Soon enough, though, what he's been doing lately that's earned him the nickname Dr. Sleep is he's been going into the rooms of these older, you know, people who are right about to die, and they're scared, they don't know what to expect, and he's using the shine to calm them down, to reassure them, hey, everything's okay, you don't have anything to be afraid of on the other side, and, you know, it just helps them die peacefully. I really liked seeing that, because it harkens back to, you know, Dan's old nickname when he was a kid, which was Doc, and now it's like, oh, now he's known as Dr. Sleep. I'm just like, that actually makes perfect sense. That actually is a good sequel name, because at first, I saw The Shining, title for the sequel, and it was Doctor Sleep. I'm just like, I don't know if that really makes sense. But now, not all that was put together. I was like, okay, yeah, I guess that does make sense. But it's one night after Abra has kind of a connection with Rebecca Ferguson in her mind. Rebecca Ferguson, she tries to use her ability to shine to, get into Abra's head. But once she gets into Abra's head, Abra kind of imprisons her there. And at one point, she just absolutely, breaks the fuck out of Rebecca Ferguson's wrist, absolutely mauls that to shit, and which forces her out of it entirely. Rebecca Ferguson winds back with the cult, and she's like, holy fucking shit, this girl's power is insane. We have to get this girl. Now it's right here, when Abra and Dan have finally met up and they realize what these people are doing, what they're attempting to do, they're like, okay, we have to stop them, we have to beat them. So what they do, they set up this very elaborate scheme. They're able to lure the cult over into the woods where they believe Abra is. They try to kill her there. But thanks to Abra's shine, she's able to trick them all into winding up in the woods, where at this point, Billy and Dan just immediately gun them all down with a bunch of shotguns, just one by one by one. All of them are killed. And right as the young girl that they brought in, right before she dies though, she uses the last of her shine ability to manipulate Billy into shooting himself, which kills him. That was a really disturbing scene. It's just seeing that moment, you see that girl, just how evil she was, how manipulative she was. You're just like, oh god, it's like a living form of Ka, from Jungle Book. Just use that hypnosis to lure people. Yeah, that's kind of how I saw it. Unfortunately, though, they don't lure off everybody. At one point, Rebecca Ferguson's kind of second in command, kind of also her boyfriend. He's known as the Crow. He's able to find out where Abra actually is. He kills her father, kidnaps her, has her trapped in the van. He's prepared to bring her to Rebecca Ferguson. But what I love seeing in this moment right here is more exploration on the Shining. At this point, Dan is able to use his Shining to communicate with Abra once again, and he tells her, it's like, okay, I have a plan to get you out of this. I need you to trust me, though. And what he does is he kind of basically moves his mind into her body, kind of possesses her a little bit, kind of is able to manipulate Crow a little bit. And what he does is he notices he's not wearing a seatbelt, so he just controls the van, swears it out of the way, crashes it into a tree, which kills Crow. Now Rebecca Ferguson is the only one left. She is pissed off because her entire fucking cult is dead. So she's like, alright, I'm coming after you and you're all gonna suffer. Now it's towards the final act of the movie. Dan realizes, okay, there's really only one place we can go. I swore to myself I would never ever go back here, but really, this is our only shot. So he brings her to the hotel room that's now been completely shut down because, obviously, they don't want anyone going back in there after the shit that went down. And what I really like seeing at this point is at one point, it's seeing the reminiscence. Here's where you really see the nostalgia, because you're in the hotel, and you see everything that you remember. You see all the rooms, the hallway, you see the bar. And it's in the bar, you see Dan sit down at the bar, and the bartender that serves him is Jack Nicholson's old ghost, who, I don't know if he was actually played by Jack Nicholson, but, they did the de-aging and everything along those lines to make it look like a young Jack Nicholson. I thought that was pretty cool. And, he's doing the manipulation with Dan, kind of being, the dick dad that he was to Dan in The Shining. Again, I like seeing that because it further connects The Shining to this movie. But again, at this point, Rose finally comes. She's prepared to take them down. But again, I like seeing Dan and Abra continue to use their Shining against her, and at one point they try to see if they can put her in the maze where, Dan had that confrontation with Jack in The Shining. They try to trap her in one of the boxes that Dan has been using on the monsters that's haunting him from the hotel room. That doesn't work. She's able to get out of that, get into the hotel room. But at this point, Dan, he's like, alright, I can make one last ditch effort to beat this woman. The two of them kind of get into a little bit of a showdown. She's prepared to eat his shine before she goes after her. But what Dan now does is he goes into his mind, he opens up all the boxes that he had collected from all those moments. And just like that, every ghost, every spirit that was haunting him, those twins, the butlers, the waiters, everyone that was in the hotel room that died, they all come out. And they all just feed on Rose the Hat. They kill her. Once that's all over, they turn their attention to Dan. Dan now is able to get away before they kill him, but he's now kind of possessed. He's going after Abra the same way that, Jack went after Dan when Dan was a kid. This time, though, Abra is able to briefly, free Dan from the control that the ghosts have over them. He knows this may not last long, so he's like, there's only one thing I can do. You have to get out of here. The police will be coming. I need to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. I'm gonna burn down this hotel, and I'm gonna make sure it's burnt down. So he goes into the boiler room, sets the whole place on fire, and what I do like seeing here is as it's burning down, you see a vision that Dan has of his mother who, died when he was younger. He sees her again, who looks like how she looked in The Shining. You see kind of a version of him, like I guess I want to say maybe his spirit form. It's him as a young kid. Again, looks exactly like Danny in The Shining. I really appreciated that. When they did the de-aging, well, not really de-aging, the recasting I should say, everyone looked like they did in The Shining. I thought it was really, really clever. And then in the final scene of this movie, you see Abra, she's safe back at home, she's learned to, control her powers, her family, her mother anyway, has become a lot more acceptant of her, just having these abilities. And you see her communicating with Dan's spirit. And I love seeing right here, he's kind of being the mentor to her, just like that butler was to Dan. It's kind of like, he's become that role to her now. I feel like that was great development for him. Like, now he's passed on that. He's just reassuring her, it's like, the world's a wicked place. We stopped this cult, but there's more evil out there. They will come, but there's good people like us too, so just shine on, girl. Very fitting final line from Dan, just shine on. Little corny maybe, but it's fitting. All in all, Dr. Sleep, this movie was awesome. In my eyes, this is everything you could want for a horror movie. The performances in this movie were all top notch. Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, they killed it in this movie. The young girl who plays Abra, I don't know her name, but she is unbelievable. As far as a kid actor goes, normally you're just like, alright, give them their time, then, let it go back to the adults, the ones who can handle it. No, whenever she was on screen, I'm like, keep showing this character. She's killing it. Every scene she was in, she stole. I love seeing the movie explore more on The Shining, exploring more on what that ability is, what that power really is. I like seeing that there is this scary group of people that literally feed on those with The Shining. They will feed on anyone with The Shining. This movie is suspenseful, this movie is scary, this movie is disturbing. This movie definitely had me white-knuckling it against my seat. It had me looking away at certain scenes because I'm a little bitch like that because I don't like scary stuff. It is a long movie, but really for me, the movie never felt long at any moment. I know everyone out there is going to say, was it as good as The Shining? No, of course not. The Shining is one of the best movies ever made. It's arguably the greatest horror movie ever made. If you go into this movie expecting it to be as good as The Shining, of course you're going to be disappointed. If you go into this movie, however, expecting just a great sequel, a worthy sequel to The Shining, then I really think you're going to dig this movie. In fact, if I'm being honest, the only real genuine flaw that I had with Dr. Sleep was that it didn't come out around Halloween, because this would have been a much better Halloween movie than fucking Countdown was. I can tell you that right now. That's all I gotta say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.